Welcome back to Cigar Time, your friendly Tuesday night show all about premium cigars. We have a couple new panelists joining us, and I'm sure you'll recognize them, but let me introduce them. We have Nick Perdomo, the owner of Perdomo Cigars.
Thank
you. We have his right-hand man, Arthur Kemper.
Yay.
Executive Vice President, Major Domo, and anything else you do?
Major Domo from
a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. Okay, you're like me. You take a broom and put it in your certain place and sweep as you go by, right?
Whatever needs to be done.
Whatever needs to be done.
Absolutely.
Well, obviously today we're going to be smoking a Perdomo cigar, which the lovely Miss T will tell you all about.
Okay, our cigar of the day is the Perdomo 20th anniversary. It is a Nicaraguan Puro. That means the wrapper, binder, and filler are all Nicaraguan. The wrapper happens to be a Habano Maduro. 20 years and going strong with the Perdomo company. This cigar celebrates the rich history and the family history of the Nicaraguan cigars. It's Cuban seeded. The tobacco is from Esteli, Jalapa, y Condega, and it's blended skillfully to perfection. It is a soft, gentle box press, extra fermented, cedar aged, barrel aged in old bourbon barrels. The taste profile on this is rich, toasty notes of cocoa, coffee, leather, sweet pepper, and some earthy tones. The strength is medium to full, and the sizes are Churchill, Torpedo, Robusto, Double Corona, Gordo, and Toro.
Wow.
Nick, does your story check out?
I'd say it's pretty accurate, pretty good. I got it. She got most of it right.
Okay, good.
Well, I think it's time for us to light, and well, some of us have already started.
Hey, no fair.
You're late.
Well, I would start if I had a lighter. And my lighters have all been, no, I can't.
He has to have the soft flame.
That's I like the soft
Oh,
flame.
here we
I don't know how to use
go.
a torch anymore.
I like the torch.
Scott, why don't you give us your first opinions?
First opinions. Well, I've smoked this cigar before, and
Oh, that's cheating.
absolutely. Well, sorry. I'm a first puff guy. I love the first taste of the cigar, but this cigar is. I am cheating. It's fantastic through and through. I mean, we I think we had this on the show once. Before,
We have.
But
But everybody was smoking
We had
different.
this sun
Everybody was
grown.
smoking different stuff.
Exactly.
Sun-grown.
Yeah, sun-grown, yeah.
Yeah. So, I definitely right off the bat, I'm getting the chocolatey kind of roast coffee. I get those two flavors mixed up sometimes, but
That's the
I'm getting
coca.
that right off the coca.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm saying it right. Cocoa. Cocoa.
Rob, what's
What?
your initial impressions? We'll do things a little different today.
Well, we're going to review it before we
No,
smoke
I
it.
just want your initial impressions.
It's a beautiful cigar.
Yeah.
That's it?
It's a beautiful cigar. I'll
You
give you,
said
my...
that twice.
I did. I'll give you my
Okay,
opinion
on your
later.
review. Okay. Miss T?
Well, we can't keep these on the shelf at the store, at least my store in Reading. From first impression, lighting it up, definitely get the spice and, the peppery. So can't wait to, keep smoking it.
Well, I think now would be a good time to talk about the company, Perdomo.
Yeah.
They kind of mirror our history. They started about the same time we started in the business, and I had the great pleasure of knowing Nick all this period of time. I knew his father as well, who I always look forward to seeing. What can I say? They're great people. They make a wonderful product. They've stuck with it for a long time through some thick and thin, and I think it's just. This is a company that's vertically integrated. Basically, as we've said on previous shows, seed to shelf. Correct? I guess I'm
Absolutely.
saying. And I'll let Nick, talk about the company.
Well, we've been in business a little over 22 years, and we're a family-run business. And kind of like Art said, we're completely vertically integrated. It makes a big difference when you're doing everything from seed to the shelf or to cello. And I'm really blessed. I have a great set of employees, not only here in the United States, but abroad in Esteli, Nicaragua, where we've been at since the mid-'90s. And thank God things have been going pretty good, and we've been blessed. And thank you for your business, Art, and thank you for having us on the show. It's been a real pleasure.
Pleasure. But you're not originally from Nicaragua. You're a New York guy, right?
No, I'm.
No,
my family came from Cuba, and I actually
Originally.
grew up, originally, and I actually grew up in the Washington D.C. Baltimore
Washington,
area.
yeah.
And when I was 12, I moved to Miami, and I've been there ever since. Outside of my tenure in the military, where I was in the Navy for 5 years, and been back ever since. And enjoy Miami, enjoy Nicaragua, and really like doing events and being with the consumers.
Oh, I know, you get all over the place.
I do.
You've done many for us over the, you and your brother both. Billy, I know, was here
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, he used to do rolling events.
Yeah,
for us.
exactly,
Yeah,
years
yeah.
ago. I can still have pictures somewhere.
Yeah, he's our representative in Florida. He's our.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
Cool,
he does a great
cool.
job also for the company.
Arthur?
Well, I started with Nick in 2000,
Mhm.
and before I worked for Nick, I actually wet my feet as a retailer in San Antonio, Texas.
Cool.
That's where I started. So
Great
I
town.
ran a cigar store for 5 years, similar to your store.
Right,
Traditional
and
tobacconist.
mortar, yeah.
Brick and mortar. And I met Nick in 2000 in San Antonio at the trade show, and have been blessed to join his family. And that's really what it is. It's a family.
It really
So
is a family.
It really is a
Everybody's
family.
involved.
It's coming up. I've been with him for 14 years
Yeah.
and started on the bottom. And Nick's the type of guy in his family where he sort of, like we were talking earlier, he hands you the ball and he says, "Run with it."
right,
And
right.
gave me a lot of opportunities. And I traveled to Nicaragua on a regular basis, basically a week out of every month.
Oh, you're down there,
We
yeah.
alternate.
Wow.
And so, but that's who we are. We're family owned and run. We're completely vertically integrated, which includes a box factory, which is somewhere I really enjoy designing a lot of the packaging and
Cool, yeah.
so it's been really a blessing to work in a family.
I think
unit.
our audience, we have a segment on the show we call Paul in the Fields, because Paul formerly was a manufacturer and grower, and he has a very good perspective on how things are done. But I think our audience would like to hear, how is it that sets Perdomo apart, besides the Nicaraguan tobacco, which has evolved over the years. I remember in the early 70s, before the Sandinistas took over, that Nicaragua was going to overtake Cuba as the true good tobacco. And I go back to those days of the Hoya de Nicaraguas and those kinds of cigars, which were great cigars, and unfortunately the communist government took over and that was the end of that. But as now, I would guess in the last 15 or 20 years, the evolution has come back full circle, and now Nicaraguan cigars are some of the most prized cigars that we sell, and I'm sure we're a microcosm of everybody else. So the Nicaraguan cigars are coming back very strong, to the point where some of the major manufacturers that didn't formally have operations or buy tobacco from Nicaragua are now doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think our viewers would like to hear some of how you do things. Your factories down there and your plantings down there, the size and scope, and it may be a little technical, but people always enjoy when we talk about the seed process and take it right into the galleries, right into do you use lectors at all, or is that strictly down to Cuba now?
No, that's it was used in Cuba to educate people
Right.
in reading and so on, but now they talk about is communist stuff, so they're not really getting much education, to say the least. And you bring up a good point as far as communism versus a private entity. It's no different. If you run something with yourself and you own it, you have much more passion and love doing it, Art. And as little as 12 years ago, I remember being in Germany at the Dortmund Fair.
Right.
And a guy said, "I know you. I've seen you in a magazine." And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Where do you make your cigars?" And he said, "I make them in Nicaragua." And he said, "What's Nicaragua?" And I said, "You'll know before long." And I remember when I first got in, when we moved to Nicaragua in the mid '90s, you had basically Nicaragua below our feet. You had countries like the Bahamas, the Canary Islands, Mexico, and so on that were up here. And then it was Honduras and the Dominican Republic.
Right. Over at Jamaica. Jamaica used to talk
We had
about some
Jamaica
good
too,
tobacco.
but I will tell you that Nicaragua will surpass the Dominican Republic before long. And it's just a very unique tobacco. It's sweet, aromatic, it's powerful, it's got everything that you can envision in any tobacco. It's we're blessed because we're the size of California, and we can grow in a lot of different areas. And Nicaragua means with abundance of water. So we have a tremendous amount of water. And really, where did all the great Cuban masters leave? They all went to the Dominican Republic, Honduras, and Nicaragua. They certainly didn't stay in Cuba.
No.
And the truth of the matter is it's been phenomenal. And as far as growing, we have a complete agronomy department. We have over 4,000 workers that work for us
Wow.
in
That's
Nicaragua. We grow in the 3 most fertile regions. Whether you're in Jalapa, which is down in the valley about 2 hours to the north of us, where we produce a lot of binder and wrapper tobaccos and a great mixing and filling tobaccos that are sweet and aromatic. You go in between, and we have an intermediary called the Condega Valley, and that valley produces really rich and lush tobacco, but it has a lot of cloud cover, which produces a lot of great sun-grown wrappers, which you're smoking right there. And we have the powerhouse, which is Esteli, where the grounds are as dark as your shirt, and you can go 6 feet down, and it's the same way. So we have a lot, and we are also blessed that we can let the grounds go to fallow for a whole year, and we have an abundance of water. And what we do is we actually irrigate from the bottom up, so our leaves actually get no water on them, because what we don't want is we don't want that resin,
Sunspots.
and the starches, sugars, or spots, like you said, or watermarks on that tobacco. And that's what makes us totally different than the tobacco you would see in Honduras or the Dominican Republic or Cuba, for that matter, where, as we all know, not only the quality has dropped quite a bit, but also, the organic matters drop quite a bit. It's a big difference when you have the government run things. If you haven't seen it in the last 5 years in our country, you see it where you see nobody is going to love something as much as you do versus a government entity running something. So we're real fortunate that we're in Nicaragua, and we're really happy about it. And we are completely vertical. We do everything from developing our seeds through the agronomy, and I have a lot of vast people with a lot of knowledge that work for the company. It's been a blessing. And we do wear a lot of hats, Arthur included. We're pretty much from seed all the way to the end, and we love it.
One thing I'd like to mention is we have probably the most modern technology as far as a growing operation regarding growing tobacco. We actually had a custom-built 4-row rotary transplanter, so that actually was packaged in a container, sent down, and then had to be custom built. But what this machine does is it actually runs on a laser, and it actually will plant 240 plants per minute, which is 4 plants a second.
A minute.
Yeah, and it plants them
You're hearing it here
absolutely perfect distance from each other, perfect depth in the ground. So what happened was, where a normal field, let's say 40, 50 acres, would take 60 people 3 days to plant, we can do it with 8 people in 8 hours.
Wow.
But
That's amazing.
outside of the offset of the workforce, now we've taken that workforce, we've been able to train them in other areas, and
That's
our
good.
yields increased by 37% the first year alone.
Wow.
So this transplanter, we're the first to put that machine in Nicaragua. I haven't seen one since.
Talk about advances in
So that's something
agrarian
very-
You guys are
farming. That's
innovators.
amazing.
Very
Yeah.
important.
And Arthur brings up a good point. We didn't have to lose that labor force. We actually cross-trained them. So what we have is now, instead of having these workers in the fields 4 to 5 months out of the year and then losing them and then getting new people, we've actually been able to continuously keep these people working year in and year out.
Oh, that's gotta be great.
So
for
it's
them,
been
too.
super, yeah, and they're cross-trained, and what they do is they go from planting through curing, through fermentation, through finishing, and right back to planting again. So they're consistently working. So the machines and the technology has been superb for us, but at the same time we've bettered things and we've kept our workforce intact. So that was a great idea, and that was actually an idea from Arthur in the beginning. And
Very nice.
it does. It plants the plant, it puts water, algicide, fungicide, plants the tobacco all in a row and perfectly done, just like he said, with a laser.
That's
so
amazing.
it's actually
I would have never thought of that.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier the irrigation from
The bottom?
From the bottom,
Is
yes.
is that something that happens naturally in Nicaragua, or is that something else that you?
No, what we like to do, instead of using sprinklers where we're actually washing the leaves of its resin and grease, what we wanted to do is we wanted to flood the plants from underneath, because the root base is only really the size of this
Yeah, it's not
cigar's
big, yeah.
coffee cup. And what we do is we inundate the ground from the bottom up. It touches the bottom of the root, and the leaves never get any water. So what they do is they absorb all the nutrients from the bottom together with their water. And what we do is we get a much more lush, more vibrant plant. It's going to always help in flavor, and its flavor characteristics, aroma, and its complexity. So it's been a win-win for us.
Yeah, it actually comes through, and you can taste it in the cigars.
Yeah.
You can really tell the difference.
Well, I appreciate all the kind words. We really try hard. But, some of the technology I learned from my father, a lot of old Cuban traditions, but the same thing with some modern technology. And some of the technology we don't like, but some of we do. We used to do soil-analysis. Now we do everything with infrared and GPS and so on and so on. So we actually can really adequately fertilize each one of our lots to perfection, and it's really helped in our tobacco. Yeah.
Boy, I learned some things today. I wasn't aware of that. That's what I thought. I knew mostly everything, but
That's why we got to get you down to Nicaragua.
I was there.
I'm coming.
I was there
Yeah.
many,
I'm gonna
many
go.
years ago.
And you're always welcome to come back, Art. That's
No,
a
I
fact.
appreciate that. No, I wasn't to you, but I'm
I'm going.
I'm going.
I'm first.
Oh, you guys go. I miss.
All right, well,
I used to go
all
to
three of
Cuba
us
all
go.
the time.
Okay.
Well, you got to come in January and February, and I know this area in Pennsylvania is so beautiful in the months of
Yes.
January.
Oh,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't.
Absolutely.
Well,
So I know it's twisting your arm for you guys to come down, but
I
you're,
might
you're
be able
always
to get away from the store in January.
Yeah.
okay.
Well, as a retailer, the one thing I can certainly say that in all the years we've been selling your product, it's always been tasty, first rate, decent strain.
Consistent.
I mean, I never ever, and I can't say this about every manufacturer. I can't even say it about most of them. We've never had a difficulty with customers complaining that it doesn't deliver the taste or the strength. Just the contrary. To me, this is one of the most highest rated cigars that we sell, and one of the better bargains. I mean, your
And how
cigar
about
pricing
that
is.
they've kept their price as low as
Yeah.
They actually.
As a matter of fact, you
dropped the
wrote,
price.
Yeah,
yeah,
dropped the
exactly.
prices,
When,
yeah.
when the federal government increased the taxes, they
Yeah.
called it S-chip. You gentlemen were able to, absorb that, and you kept people smoking cigars at an affordable price, which
It
not
was-
everybody does.
It was a punitive tax
Of course.
to absorb, of course, but you had brought up a great point. We took a lot of our major brands like Perdomo Reserve Champagne, Lot 23, and we actually dropped the prices.
You did.
And a lot of it had to do with Arthur, to be quite honest with you. And what we envisioned was market share, in reality, was more important than actual gross margins, especially in tough economies, an economy that's been tough really in the last 6 to 8 years.
Sure.
We thought that we would be able to branch out and grow in the humidors, and thank God we've been able to do it. We grew actually 100% in 2008 from this decision that we made to absorb S-chip and actually drop the prices. Also,
Good.
we've been good stewards of our money. A lot of our competitors say, I don't know how they do it. We do it because, one, we're efficient, and two, we are good stewards of our money. The company is debt-free, and that actually helps. So, and my dad always said it's better to make a quick nickel than make a slow dime. So we appreciate our retailers supporting us, and we certainly appreciate you, the consumer, supporting us by buying our products. We don't advertise in magazines and so on. Really what we do is we do the ground levels with events and so on. And to us, the most important guys are not only you, the consumer, but also the guys that work behind the counter. So we've been very fortunate these last 5 years, where a lot of people haven't been able to say the same. So.
Well, you make it easy for us
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
by
Thank
creating, the quality product that you create at the prices we're able to sell them. I mean, you're one of the best, all around, I call it the price quality quotient. You have a good cigar, a great cigar, typically, at a very affordable price. So that, like, as a retailer, that rings all our bells.
you.
They
Even
have
the 20th
something-
anniversary is a great price for the cigar.
Yeah,
And they have something for every price point, from
Yeah,
the,
that's
sure.
true.
You're right.
Absolutely.
And
Apple
taste,
Fresco
and
to-
taste.
the Fresco to the Nick Sticks, all the way up to L'Addition de Silvio.
When I have people looking for, say, well, I want a cheap, not a cheap cigar, but they say, I want, like a golfing type cigar. I go right to the Perdomo Fresco. I say, this is perfect cigar. You're still going to get the flavor, the taste, but you don't mind if you have to put it out, to
Yeah.
quick hit a ball, So
That's my favorite bundle.
the Perdomo Fresco.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Maduro. I
And the
have,
Maduro,
I
I
have
like
to
the
have
Maduro.
Maduro.
Why don't we take a minute and describe the various brands, the facings? What I mean, can we
Isn't
take-
lot 23 number one?
Best seller for us is probably our Perdomo Reserve Champagne.
okay.
Yeah, that's a good
Followed with Lot 23 and Habano neck to neck.
Yeah.
We have a new brand that's coming out that nobody's ever heard of, and I'll let Arthur mention a little bit about it. We're
It's
really
like an
proud
exclusive we're getting here?
Yeah, this
You are
this
actually
is-
going to.
You're hearing it first here.
This is definitely an exclusive, but it's sort of, I want to bounce it off of the 20th anniversary we're smoking right now. And what's special about the 20th anniversary is we took the wrappers and we actually barrel aged them in bourbon barrels.
Ah,
So they're actually, they're rounded out. If you come down to the facility, to the factory.
I think
and
they really want us to come.
We'd like you to come, but
Okay.
it's
Do we have
all
to
of our
sleep
wrappers.
Do we have to sleep on straw?
No. We have
no,
nice hotels, nice food,
Very
good
nice
food.
hotel.
I remember my first visit. There was some straw
As long as I get
involved.
picked up in a limo, I'm fine.
Ah, yeah.
Things have really changed for the better in Nicaragua due
I
to
know.
the cigar industry. That's
yeah,
a fact.
I know.
It's totally different. But when you do come down, and you come and you take these tobaccos out of these barrels, these bourbon barrels, you'll see the colors
Oh, I can
are
imagine.
parallel. The
Oh.
aroma is tremendous. So we did that with our 20th anniversary with the Sun-Grown and the Maduro. And then we were talking about it, and we said, what if we took not only the wrapper, but we took the binder and all of the fillers, the Seco, the Viso, and Ligeiro, and barrel aged all of these tobaccos and
Wow.
created a cigar.
Wow.
So what we're going to be introducing is a 12-year vintage. It's a double-aged vintage. So the tobacco has actually been bale aged for 10 years, and then we barrel aged it for the last 2 years. And so this cigar, it'll be a limited production item. We're going to produce 240,000 cigars per wrapper. We're going to introduce it in a Connecticut. We're going to introduce it in a sun-grown, and we're going to introduce it in a Maduro. So, but it's going to be introduced in stages this year.
Very nice.
Interesting.
That's
Very
awesome.
interesting.
And it really, the concept came from my love of single malt scotches, and believe it or not, the bourbon barrels, it's not the infusion of of the actual bourbon, it's the actual alcohols that are embedded into this aged white oak, which we use from a company called Blanton's. I'm not a bourbon drinker, but they make a bourbon called Pappy Van Winkle, and they make very high-end bourbons. But with this French oak, what happens is the tobacco can breathe, the free radicals of the alcohol work and continue aging the tobacco after it doesn't age in its bales. It imparts a flavor, not of the actual bourbon, but because of the alcohol, together with the charcoal, because they're lined with acetylene torches to produce charcoal inside the actual wood. It filters the tobacco, it helps age and cure the tobacco, and like Arthur said, it helps seal the colors of the tobacco and imparts just a fragrant aroma. And what it does, it just takes all the sharpness out of the tobacco. And it's the difference between a bottle of blended whiskey now becoming a bottle of 20-year-old single malt or a fine Pappy Van Winkle bourbon. And it's limited because it's a long process, and it takes a lot of time. But it's something we wanted to do. There will only be 250 cigar retailers, including Cigars here, that will be carrying the brand.
Well, thank you.
And we're super excited about it. We just started putting it on Facebook to show the packaging. We actually made these cigars last year in the month of September and October. So by the time they get distributed out in the streets in the latter part of July, they'll actually be made almost 9, 10, 11 months of time after they were made.
Is that how long it takes?
Well, we wanted to do it for two reasons. First of all, for the show, and also because the tobacco was too potent initially. And when we were smoking them, I think I can make a cigar that can make your eyes water, but I want something that's enjoyable. And this stuff now about blowing guys' heads off, to me, that's not what cigar smoking's all about.
Absolutely.
It's about enjoying it with a fine spirit, a fine female, or a fine group of friends. And that's what it should be about. So we're really proud of this endeavor. And if you look at all the work that's taken to make this cigar, the cigar is only going to retail between $10 and $12, and it's a super
That's
premium.
reasonable.
Where if someone else did that, they would, if they took the
15,
time,
yeah.
you can imagine,
15 or more.
sitting on tobacco this long.
12 years, and that's nice.
And you can imagine how long it took and how we've had the climate control, the humidity, and so on to keep this tobacco, subline. It was a lot of work, but we're real proud of it.
I'd like to see that warehouse with all those barrels.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thousands of barrels.
You
So
should
do you
see
have
the
to drink it
thousands and
beforehand?
thousands of bales of tobacco that we have, and that's
We
one
should
of
go
the
down
secrets.
there.
I've
we
seen a
have.
picture.
We should come
of
down to
that.
Nicaragua.
Yeah, if you go to Facebook, you see we have in excess
Yeah.
over 20,000 bales of tobacco and aging.
Now, do you
all
buy
the
the
time.
barrels full and you have to drink it? Yeah. The empty bottle?
Now, one of the great
Empty
things
bottle?
about bourbon, it has to be plugged after 5 years. And when I had asked the people how long will the alcohol residue stay, they told me 20 years, and I thought it was crazy.
Wow.
But it's true. And even and I'm not a bourbon drinker, but even Maker's Mark is coming out with a new brand called Devil's Cut, where they actually can absorb the alcohol out of the oak because the residue does stay there. So it's been phenomenal.
Unbelievable.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
You know, we're going to start a new segment right here and now.
Oh, here we go.
Well, as I said on a previous show, we get a lot of emails about various subjects involving the show. And a common theme amongst many of these is, what do these people do who run these cigar companies, besides work their tail off like we all do, but what do they do in their spare time? Now, I don't know if you still do, but I'm guessing you do. Nothing bad. You used to be a watch collector.
I'm
You are a
I'm
watch
still a
collector.
watch collector,
Okay.
but my hobby is to hang out with my family as much as possible. Because of the travel, I like the water ski. I'm a drummer. If you
I
come
know,
to my
I saw-
office, I still
I
have
saw,
the drum
yeah,
set.
yeah.
Yeah, that's my hobby, and it's nice to go to work when you enjoy your work and you enjoy the people you work with. And Arthur brought up a great point. We are like a family. The longevity of the workforce I have is has been around since I've known you, Art. So
Yeah.
I really don't lose many workers,
No.
and my average tenure worker is about 10 years
Wow.
with the company, and even more so in Nicaragua, which is pretty astronomical. So I'm real proud of that also.
Where does your son fit in?
My son,
He's the third.
Is it there?
he fits in real well. You know, Nicholas has been going down to Nicaragua for the last 15 summers and learned a lot from a lot of the great masters that work for Perdomo. And Arthur's taken him under his wing, and I'm the kind of guy who believes you got to walk the walk before you talk the talk.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I believe in excellence, and just because he has my last name, he's my son, doesn't mean really much, to be quite honest with you. I love him, but excellent companies become non-excellent companies when they promote people for no good reason. So
nepotism never
no,
works.
absolutely not. He has to walk the walk, and he's a great young salesman. He loves the customers, and he's doing a lot of events with us and really rotating around, working with the different salesmen and learning the trade, because it's a lot of time. Listen, I've been in this industry for over 22 years, and I'm learning every day.
Yeah, we all do.
You
We
know.
all do.
We all do, yeah.
So there's a lot to learn. He's very humble and noble, and he gets it. And the workforce in Miami has known him since he was a little kid in a stroller. So they know what type of kid he is. He's not the traditional spoiled kid who he's the boss's son. He still calls Arthur Mr. Arthur, and
That's
and he's
nice.
you know, he's going to be a senior in college. So there's a lot of respect there.
Shout out to you, Nick.
Yeah.
Very respectful. Very,
We don't have a lot
very.
of time.
Great job.
Yeah, yeah, I know. We're okay. We're okay. We're not gonna. No, we're not gonna do this because we have already reviewed it. They're great cigars. We at Cigars carry a full range of Perdomo products, as most of you hopefully know.
And I
All the
want to.
travel humidor packs are just one
Oh
of the
yeah, we
best.
can't.
Oh, my
They
God.
fly
You
off the
cannot
shelf.
beat that humidor pack.
Yeah, 1995.
Oh my god! And
Yeah,
it's premium cigars in there.
Yeah.
You have the champagne in there. You have the Lot 23 in there. The Habanos
no Lot
in
23.
there. There's no Lot 23 in there. The
ESV and
the Habanos in there.
the
Exhibition.
Exhibition.
yeah.
And I want to thank you for that, because having a 19-year-old and a 21-year-old, and many of you know, with the college tuition is super expensive. So thanks very
Yeah,
much.
tell
for
me
that.
about it. I had 12 years of private school, then college. Tell me about
I
it.
know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. So it's been great, and
Yeah,
I'm proud of myself.
That travel pack. I don't know who thought of that product,
that
but
was-
you're the envy of the industry.
Yes.
You are
Right
the
here.
envy
Right there.
of the
Absolutely.
industry.
To not keep
Everybody's
jumping.
trying
It's
to
a
Stop.
team effort.
Oh,
Trust me, it's a team
that
effort.
was a
Wasn't that
bullseye.
a beautiful
The
idea?
right mix, the right packaging, the right price.
The right price.
Perfect.
And it keeps the cigars fresh for up to 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
Yeah.
So when a guy buys a Perdomo product and he enjoys it, he can always reuse that bag for up
I
to
should
6
brought
months.
one in.
Well,
We did a commercial for them.
Yes, we did.
yes, we
weeks
did.
ago.
We
Yeah.
did do a commercial.
We highlighted the Perdomo
Absolutely.
travel packs.
Yes,
On
we
us.
did.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks very
Well,
much on that.
I can't say enough how much, on behalf of Cigars, we appreciate and respect our relationship with Perdomo, always have. It's a superior product at a very reasonable price. Those
I
of
love
you who are
Perdomo.
not acquainted with it,
We love you.
yeah, just come in. Just come in and our people will tell you all about it. Now it's time to say goodbye.
Well, thanks
Mom.
very much.
Thank you.
Ciao for now, everybody.
Life's too short to smoke cheap cigars. Hi, Mom.
Smoke sweet, everybody.
Smoke
Bye bye for
Perdomo.
now.
Smoke Perdomo.
Smoke
Yeah.
Perdomo.
We thank Nick and we thank Arthur and
Little-
I could never get
Little
mad
Nick.
at this
And Little
guy.
Nick over
My
there.
Can't
namesake
forget Little
here.
Nick.
Thank you.
Oh, don't forget little. He's not so little.
No, he's not.
Nick the third. Boy, I knew the first, the second, and now the third. Oh, I hope I stick around a while. Thank you very much for viewing. We'll see you next week, and just keep enjoying and live great.